Zach is back. It's the Zach Gelb Show on Fox Sports 920 The Jersey.
All right, welcome back in. 4:17 is the time on a Thursday. This is the Zach Gelb Show, Fox Sports 920 The Jersey. Our number, as always, if you want to hop on board and get inside the action, 609-919-9200. Geir Gudmundsen is the Director of Football Operations at Test Football Academy. They trained Joe Flacco. They trained Patrick Peterson. And with the draft coming up, we want to get a little bit more perspective on the training process as these kids get ready to find out where they're going to be going next Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. And by the way, we'll be doing some shows at the NFL Draft on Thursday and Friday from 4 to 6. So we're taking our show from New Jersey into Philadelphia, and we're excited for that. So now joining us on the Zach Gelb Show is Geir Gudmundsen, who's kind enough to hop on board with us for a few minutes. Geir, appreciate the time, and how are you?
Hey, not bad. How about yourself?
Well, I'm doing great. Can't complain. So right out of the gate, tell me a little bit about the great work that you guys do at Test Football Academy.
Well, at Test, I mean, we cross our T's and dot our I's with the combine process. You know, there's a lot that goes into it. You know, everybody thinks that, you know, these guys coming out of college are, you know, they come in and they get you know, strength and they get speed. There's more that goes into it because the combine is there to break you down. They want to see you at your worst in terms of interview process, in terms of, you know, sleep deprivation, in terms of they just want to see you, you know, go through this process and see how you're going to react to, you know, everything and anything thrown at you. So, yes, we prepare them by, you know, surrounding them with world-class professionals from, you know, all of our speed and strength staff, but we bring our medical staff around them and our sports psychologists and our interview prep personnel. So, you know, as far as what we do, every day is well thought out. From sometimes we start at 8:30 a.m. and sometimes we end around 8:30 p.m. So this is a full-time job for them for sometimes 12 weeks, depending on when their season ends. You know, they're putting in the hours which need to be put in because it's a short period of time. We make sure that we bring in, you know, guys like Otto Bolden, you know, 4-time Olympic sprint medalist, to work with them on their linear speed. You know, our positional coaches, whether that's, you know, Scott Bruner, ex-Giant, Tony Rassiopi, you know, I work with myself, you know, Rich Subert, offensive lineman for the Giants, Joe Porter, Jamal Westerman. I mean, guys like that, world-class athletes, you know, who've gone through the process and understand a little bit about what they need to do.
We all know the physical side of it, but I want to explore a little bit more into the mental side of it. And I've been covering Temple football for the last few years, and I've been able to do some events with Deion Dawkins and also Hassan Reddick. And we were just talking in the car, and they were telling me about some of these crazy questions that they get in the interview process. And one team challenged them to a staring contest to see how long they could stare. So give me a little bit more how you prepare these guys, because it's such a big job interview with all the pressure with the combine and also this process leading up to the draft. So how do you prepare them for the mental side of it?
It's actually funny that you mentioned the person that was put in the interview that had the staring contest or had to stare at a bottle. That was our athlete, Jordan Morgan, this year, who went into an interview. I'm not going to say what said team, but they told him to stare at a bottle and see how long he can do it without blinking. That was one of the things he did in an interview.
What does that do,
if you can believe it or not.
But what does that do? Like, I never get why they have him stare at a bottle or do any of this zany stuff.
Exactly. What point is it? Who knows what they're thinking? That maybe there's a psychological component. Maybe there's. If I had the crystal ball, I would be a richer man. But I mean, to answer your question, as far as, you know, the mental side, like I said, the staff that we have, we bring in Dr. Robert Price, who worked for the Giants, who actually worked for the NFL on the sports psychology side, to make sure that they're mentally prepared for this, because it's important physically to be prepared for this, for these events, but you have to be mentally prepared for this as well, because it's taxing. You gotta be mentally prepared. You gotta visualize. There's got to be a ton of visualization. So, they work with Dr. Price very, very, very closely. And as far as interview prep, you have to know how to conduct yourself. You have to know how to answer questions correctly and positively, and spin it in the right way. And just conduct yourself in a professional manner. Some of these guys, sometimes, aren't polished in that, and they need to be. So that's what they do, and that's what we do at Test Football. We need to make sure that, again, we cross our T's and dot our I's with every single facet of what they're going to go through at the Combine.
Now, a big storyline in this draft has been off-the-field issues, and the two players that really have been put under a microscope and have been examined, and deservingly so, are two running backs, Joe Mixon. We all saw the video, and then we've all read about what Dalvin Cook has allegedly done in his past. When you have players that, let's say, have a bad pass, what do you try to do with them to try to get them to answer the right questions and show teams that, hey, what I did in the past, I'm moving on from that, and I'm going to be a better person for your football team?
Sure. And as far as I'm concerned, I want to see how you treat me. I want to see how you treat my staff. I want to see how you treat the person at the front desk. As far as just being in the circle of at Test, what kind of person are you really deep down? That's you have a clean slate with me. As far as if you have a checkered past, and you've made some mistakes, and we've all made mistakes, but when you walk through the doors or walk through our doors, I believe that you have a clean slate. But everyone has their own opinion. It's just a matter of how you treat other people, and that's my opinion, and that's how I'm going to approach it.
Geir Gudmundsen with us right now on the Zach Gelb Show. Geir, when you got these kids, and they all have aspirations of going to the NFL, and some of them are going to be really good football players, and then you probably know that some of them have some work to do. How do you know if a kid's ready to play in the NFL, since you do have a big background and you've been a player before yourself?
Sure. You again, that crystal ball comes back into effect because you don't. If I had that, I'd be a richer man. Like I said before, I wish I did, because I would predict, I would say, yes, you're gonna end up being a superstar in this league. But you don't. You don't know how their game is going to translate. You don't know how their physical skills are going to translate. All I can do is make sure that we take their weaknesses and try and make them their strengths.
And how do you do that?
You can break them down as far as if it's a football skill, you have to say, okay, well, let's get them more, from a positional standpoint. If it's having to do with, strength or flexibility, then we have to program for that. If it's a medical issue, we get them with our medical staff and get them stronger through that, through, whether that's stability, range of motion, anything. We have to individualize the program for the player. Now, if it's football skills, yeah, we're going to gear our program more towards positional training. Okay, he can't flip his hips and cover so well. Okay, well, let's do some more positional training. Things like that. It just needs to. We need to. It's a group competitive atmosphere, but we have to individualize it as best we can to make sure that these athletes are getting everything they need out of it, because this is the biggest job interview of their life. There's a lot riding on this. They don't necessarily get another chance at this. It's a one-time thing, and they need to be at their peak, at their best.
Do you think some of this process and teams evaluate it? Because I know a lot of mock draft people, they see someone, they have a really good combine, and then the next thing you know, they could get right in the first round. But I like to more look at the entire resume. So if a kid doesn't have the best combine, and let's say he had a really good 4-year career, how do you try to bring his spirits up a little bit, even though if he didn't test that well at the combine?
Well, that's what you said it. I mean, this is the business that I'm in, all right. But at the same time, it's not the end all be all. I want to think of it as we're basically kind of putting the wax on the car and kind of shining you up. We're the exclamation point. We're the last kind of brick on the house, putting the roof on. We just want to make sure that okay, well, yes, he plays that fast, on tape. So yeah, he just kind of solidified that. Or if he's not that well known a player, well, okay, well, the coaches and the GMs have to go back and look at his tape because wow, he just showed him something. He looked smooth in his positional, or he ran faster than we thought. So let's go take a look at his film. Let's go take a look at his tape. It's all about getting these guys exposure. If you're not as well known, or it's kind of putting, like I said, that exclamation point on their career, on their resume, like you said, the 4-year career that they have on film, because that's their resume.
When did you know that Flacco, because he came from a smaller school and you guys did work with Flacco, when did you know that, hey, this guy could be the real deal?
I mean, when you saw him throw the football. I mean, you heard when he threw the football across, because we have an indoor, field turf area, and it's 60 yards long. When he spun that ball, you can hear it. You heard that football whistle, and he broke guys' gloves. He split guys' gloves open. We had a couple of receivers there that would just catch with him, and you knew it. He had to learn to get under center. He worked a lot with Scott Bruner on that, and it was just a phenomenal rise through the ranks for him. It was great. It was a little bit earlier in my career as far as coming out and starting my career in strength and conditioning, but it was a phenomenal process to watch. Somebody rise that fast right at the end there, right as the draft was coming up.
And those stories, they're a lot more fun. And, it's great when you have a kid come from Alabama and ends up being a 10, 15-year player in the National Football League and wins a lot, just like what he did in college. But we're seeing it now with the Eagles and Carson Wentz from North Dakota State. He quickly just shot up, and all the draft boards ended up going number 2 overall with Wentz, because when you talk about those types of quarterbacks that come from smaller schools, you always bring up Flacco and Gannon and Phil Simms. But with Carson Wentz, after seeing him play for 1 year, how do you evaluate the Eagles quarterback?
I mean, obviously he's a special talent. He did his job. He won, and he can win at the next level, and that's what it's all about, showing that you have the physical tools, the mental tools, just to get the job done. And kind of speaking of quarterbacks and under the radar quarterbacks, we had a kid coming out of Eastern Carolina University this year, Phil Nelson, that I want you to kind of keep an eye out for.
Okay.
Who has all the physical tools. He worked with our quarterbacks coach, Tony Rasiopi, and he loves them, and I think he's going to be like a sleeper in this draft this year. Phil Nelson out of ECU. I really enjoyed watching him work. I enjoyed the way he approached the process, and I think he's got the demeanor that you want out of a quarterback, as far as keeping a level head, being a leader, and just doing all the right things.
Is there a quarterback that he reminds you of currently in the league?
Well, he has he's like kind of a dual threat. He's athletic enough to take off and run, and he's smart enough to make the reads and progressions. And who I really like, Tyrod Taylor. I like him as a quarterback. I mean, he can sit in the pocket and make all the throws, make all the progressions. But again, when he needs to run, he can run.
So now tell me more about some of your other kids that you guys are training. Who should we look out for? Who are some other names that may be coming to a team near a fan in a city near them soon?
Sure. We have something we pride ourselves in our conversation about small school prospects. We pride ourselves on putting the highlight and putting the spotlight on these guys. Is We have a kid named Jordan Morgan out of Kutztown University. I think he's a mid-round guy. He's going to be drafted, mid-round, third round, hoping, out of Kutztown University. Great feet, great athleticism. Went to the Senior Bowl this year. We also have hard-hitting safety Chuck Clark out of Virginia Tech. Chris Muller out of Rutgers, offensive lineman. Smart kid, big kid. He did phenomenal at our at the Rutgers Pro Day. We had 43 athletes, and I can go on and talk to you about how each one is special. But I don't think we have time for that. I don't want to take up all your time, but the main point of this is each one of them approached this process like a professional, and I'm proud of each and every one of them because they put everything into it, and as they should, because this is their profession now. They're not NCAA property, they're not NFL property. They're kind of in between, and I appreciate all their hard work, and it was just a great process to send them through.
Now, Geir Gudmundsen, before we let you run, I have to get to a very serious question. You were in the movie The Game Plan, right? How was that?
Where do you dig these things up? Yes, I was.
I actually love that movie.
It's a great Disney movie.
It's a fun one.
And I was very blessed to be in it. It was actually a phenomenal movie. I took it very, very seriously. I was on time. I went through training camp, and I was just blessed enough to be able to have conversations and be friendly with, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson and the director, and they actually asked me to stay for a couple more off the field scenes, and I got to do maybe another 2 more months of filming. So I in total maybe did about 4 to 5 months of filming for that movie, and you see me probably a total of 3 seconds. But it was,
hey, it's worth it.
But it was a great thing.
You get the money from that movie, so it's worth it. But you know what?
Right.
It's amazing with The Rock, because I love the show Ballers right now. It's such a fascinating show to me. And then you see him in The Game Plan where he's getting his football bedazzled. It's like the complete opposite.
Absolutely, and he was playing quarterback too. That guy was a defensive lineman. It was unbelievable.
Hey, only for Disney and Hollywood. But Geir Gudmundsen, we appreciate the time. This is a whole lot of fun, and thanks so much.
Thank you very much for having me. Talk to you soon.
Appreciate it. There is Geir Gudmundsen, once again, the Director of Football Operations at Test Football Academy.